What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Skip, aka Skip and Tosh here, back again with my two good friends. Let's start first with my brother from another father. I don't know. His last name is Comics, first name Ash, middle name On. Ash on Comics, how's it going?
Ash is back again. I'm
Oh, okay. I was waiting for.
I'm doing good. I don't
Okay,
know.
okay.
That's as
You
much as I had. I'm not a I'm not a hip hop guy or a boy band guy.
yeah, see, there we go. I was like, that was more boy band.
I
I
don't
was
know.
gonna ask you for 16 bars, but
Yeah,
I know you didn't. As much as you love Doom, I know you didn't go and listen to
that's
the
as much
MF
as I
Doom, did
know of
you?
the song.
Okay, all right, that's fair.
I didn't listen
Um,
to MF Doom.
He didn't watch the stream last week.
where's
See, he
where
he got off guard.
he didn't watch it, twin. It's
Remember, I
speaking of
couldn't
my
make it.
twin.
That's the whole reason I wasn't here.
That's true.
It'd been
We'll
silly if
talk
I was sitting here watching it the whole time.
we'll talk
It's
about
like,
we'll talk about your poor excuses for not listening to MF Doom later. We're gonna move on to
all right.
my brother from the same mother and father, Zach. How's it going, twin?
What's up? What's up, twin? I'm doing good, man. How are y'all doing tonight?
Well, Ash is not doing too great because he didn't listen to MF Doom. Please tell me, twin, that you listened to at least a little bit.
I'm gonna go sit down in the same boat with
Oh my
Ash.
gosh, the doghouse! You
Yeah.
both
High
go.
five.
I'm gonna
Oh
go
my.
Besties.
into that little sinking canoe in the middle of the ocean. And I'm gonna take my seat there and just apologize.
Drill an extra
I,
hole in it. Drill an
you don't
extra
need to
hole in it.
apologize to me. That's why we besties.
I produce an artist for both of you whose his moniker is literally modeled after the greatest villain in comics of all time. As we're
See,
reading a comic with that villain in it, and I can't count on either of you two to listen to all 17 songs that I put in there. Shame on you.
I
Shame on you
I
Wait,
both.
I
feel
was supposed to listen to 17? I thought it was one.
I feel
Uh,
like Ash deserves
that
more
that really
blame
lets me
because
know that you didn't go and listen to them because you thought it was only one.
Ash has built himself up as this big Doom fan, so I feel like he should get more blame than me.
That's fair.
I've never built myself up as this huge follower of Doom, even though, of course, all hope lies in Doom. Uh, yeah, that's my plea.
That's fair, twin. All right, double
Well,
double
to be
double
fair,
ashes for Ash.
Victor wouldn't approve. Victor, there's only one real Doom. So
That's
to
true.
be loyal to my boy.
Yeah, the real Doom is the MF Doom we got in life because he's actually real. He was in the
How
world
dare
that the
you?
dimension that we lived in. So there you go.
How
Just
dare
had
you?
to.
Victor's real in my head.
Hey, he might be real in mine too. And you're not alone there. All right, so all this Doom talk should be obvious for y'all if you're joining us. If you're joining us live on twitch.tv/Skipintosh, or if you are watching the VOD after the fact on YouTube, Skipintosh channel. Hopefully you're watching and listening. We are obviously covering a comic book that involves the great Victor Vaughn, aka Victor Von Doom, aka Doctor Doom, and which is because he's actually a part of this. We are going through Hickman's Fantastic Four, and we are at the part where the Fantastic Three teaming up with Victor and Spider-Man and some of the other of their most loyal villains of all time to come together in the Future Foundation because they have to solve a very important thing, and that is how to defeat Reed Richards, because we got a few multiversal Reed Richards running around in the 616 running up amok. And that's a big part of what we talked about last time. Now, if you are joining us here weekly, you would know that last time Mr. Comics, middle name On, first name Ash, was not able to join us because, well, let's just say let's just say a nihilist dropped a bunch of work in his lap before the stream went live.
I was
So
trapped in the negative zone.
he was trapped in the negative work zone. So Ash, obviously, we Zach and I wanted to hear your thoughts on this. The people who are following us are good friends. They would like to hear your thoughts on it. So Ash, please take 10 minutes. and not 10 minutes in a second, and let us know how you felt about
Wow, he just
volume
rubs
one.
that in. It's just like a little needle.
Hold on. Wait. Let me just rub it in just a little bit more. The salt on that wound. All
Like
right.
a
Now
little
we'll put
pebble in your shoe there. Yeah.
a little pebble in your shoe. I'm gonna put a little Neosporin on it now, though. Go ahead and clear it up, Ash. Tell us your thoughts on Future
Well,
Foundation Volume One.
I'm not gonna go into the weeds on this one because you guys talked a lot about this already last week. I'm just gonna give a little bit of a backstory on when I got into Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four. This was the very first thing I read because I didn't understand any better. And a little friend of the channel, Jimmy, was hyping it all up and telling me how great Jonathan Hickman was and the Fantastic Four thing he did was the greatest thing ever, blah, 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 blah. And so I went on Comixology and I bought FF number one, volume one. Because to me, FF meant Fantastic Four. And it was Jonathan Hickman. And I was like, this must be what he's talking about. And so I bought it and I read it. And I was a little underwhelmed. It was fine. I was like, it's good. So I'm back and I was like, dude, you made this sound like the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like was an okay comic at best. And he's like, "What? What did you?" And then he found out. He put the pieces together. Like, "Oh no, you didn't read that was Future Foundation. Blah blah blah. You got to read the real thing." And I was like, "Oh!" So I started rolling my eyes. And of course, this was several years ago. I don't even think I'd read Hawks Pox yet. I can't remember. But anyways, fast forward to today. Now that I have read through with you guys the Fantastic Four books in chronological order, including the Dark Reign, which should not be missed. Um, I read through again. I was very interested to see will I have the same impression? Like, will it still be? And I'm pleased to report that I like this book way better now that I've read the Fantastic Four. In fact, part of me is a little bit irritated that Marvel would have dared to restart this at a number one. This should have just been the next issue of Fantastic Four, in my opinion. Um, they just could have called it FF. I mean, same initials. You can have the Fantastic Four calling themselves the Future Foundation in their own Fantastic Four. I don't know. I get it. Maybe they were trying to hide that they were going to be forever called the Future Found. I don't know what they were trying to do back in the day, but this is just the Fantastic Four. It's continuing the story, and I'm annoyed because of the exploit, but I'm also annoyed because people like me. It's a clear example of how new readers come onto a book and they think this is where I start, and no, this is not where you should start. Like it is a sleight of hand. It is a smoke. I don't know what the thing is. It feels like a con job. You absolutely need to start at the beginning of his Fantastic Four run. Like I said, it's okay. I didn't hate the book, but I didn't understand half of what I was reading. There was no resonance. Things were just happening because they were happening, and I thought there was no backstory because I had come in at issue number one. So that being said, like I said, you guys covered the details, so I don't really feel like I should be talking about those. I just really wanted to give my feedback on how it impressed me. And the story itself just felt so much more epic because I actually understood what I was reading. And it wasn't that I read it before and it was confusing. It was just, like when Annihilus, Reed's making a deal with Annihilus, or one of the false universes Reed is making a deal with, that I didn't understand what that meant. Like now I go, oh, like I understand the Council of Reeds. I understand that Johnny was lost in the negative zone. There's all this impact that these scenes have for me that just I couldn't have before. I mean, I could understand what's playing in front of me, but I couldn't understand what it meant. And so that's a testimony to something that I like to rant about all the time. One of the things I really liked about this story that actually annoyed me on the first time was how, when I read it the first time, I didn't really understand Valeria too much and how she's putting Reed, like she's kind of going behind her dad's back to work with Doom, and I was like, what the hell's going on? And this, of course, again, I didn't have the backstory of Reed's dad and the whole Hope Lies in Doom, and so to me, it was just like, man, this is, as a big Doom fan, I didn't get to enjoy what's really happening here, and now I do. So um, that one of the things that annoyed me most about the book was the whole Valeria and Doom thing. Is actually now one of the things I like most about the book. Um, I don't like the modern trend of taking villains and trying to turn them into heroes. Um, I I think that happens a lot, and I guess here before I was like, what are they doing with Doom? This seems so out of character, but now that I know what's happening, it's not out of character. He makes a deal with Valeria, who he doesn't hate. Like he would never do this with Reed, but cleverly, Valeria being the deal maker, it works, and he has something he needs, so he makes a deal. And I like the fact that Doom isn't doing this for altruism; he's doing this for his own gain, and
As Doom would.
yeah, as Doom would. So
Yep.
Hickman has enabled the story to put Doom in a situation where he's working with the Fantastic Four in a way that is consistent with Doom, where he's not just like, I'm being a good guy now or something. And I like that because I like seeing Doom in new situations. I don't always have to see him as the bad guy. I just want to see him be consistent with who he is. Um, I'm kind of flipping through the book as I'm talking, and I'm trying to see if there's anything else that really stood out to me. Um, and I think I've said enough. Unless you guys have any specific questions to throw at me about this, I think I'll wrap that up.
Favorite Doom moment, and you can mention two. Favorite Doom moment of Volume One.
Um, ooh, kind of put me on a spot.
As you just asked me to do.
I know, but my memory is so scatterbrained these days. It's hard to recall. Um,
You got it there with you, right?
yeah,
Take
I'm
a minute
flipping
to
through
flip.
it. Let's see. It's not really a Doom moment, but there's a part where they're like putting Doom's brain back together, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I guess, and there's a moment where Reed is like hovering over the button, like it's like there's a transfer and a purge, and
Uh
it's
huh.
like and his fingers hovering over the purge. It's like, and then he decides to do the right thing. Um,
That's a good moment.
but that's not really a Doom moment, but he's involved in it. But um, there was kind of I don't normally like the Hickman trying to be cutesy, but there was a moment where they're like kind of sitting in these pews at this meeting, and they're trying to decide what to do, and um, basically having this discussion, like, how are we gonna fix? How are we gonna fix? And Valeria's just like, we need a backup. Yes, a backup. Yeah, exactly. I said we need a backup. Child, you are trying Doom's patience. She's just like staring. I said we need a backup. It's like Kristoff. Like he's just it normally I kind of criticize Hickman for being he just to me he just doesn't get the cutesy things in my opinion very well, and it always falls flat for me. But this is one of those scenes where I was like, nope, you got it this time. This idea, because the whole thing is Doom is he's not the quick Doom anymore, right? He's got brain damage,
Mm-hmm.
so she's
Right.
kind of having to wait, and there's like several panels where there's just silence, like it's this he just like his brain is like you can see the gears are running, and eventually he gets it. Yeah, so we need to back up. And it's just like, oh yeah, and it made me smile. So maybe this is
See?
probably my favorite scene.
There you
Embrace the
go.
Hickman being cutesy. Embrace
No,
the sandwich of strength, the sandwich of glory. Embrace that.
Much of
And
glory.
embrace it.
oh, there was another cutesy scene when not Doom is when she's cutting the sandwiches for the kids,
That's what I'm talking
and
about.
he's
Yeah.
and he was asking about like, why are you cutting the the
The
crust, and
crust. Yeah.
everyone, if you have kids, it's a very common thing. Kids don't want the crust or whatever. But by the end of the scene, she's like, "Well, how do you want yours, Spidey?" He's like, "No crust," because Spidey's a kid, which that was kind of funny too.
See, it's not. It's isn't it nice to just enjoy the little childish, juvenile parts of levity? Ash, doesn't it feel good when
Hey,
some
I
of them
love
hit?
levity when it's
Do you?
good.
Oh,
When
but
it's
it's been
good.
good. Just like
No,
Spider-Man being
no.
on the back of the thing back. Hey, where is he at? That was a great part. And then he turns around and ta-da, Spider-Man. And after the fake one was there, come on, man. Come on,
No.
man.
Sorry, pinky is extended.
Look at him. He's our own little
Pinky is
Doctor
out.
Doom. He's our own little
Yes, he is.
Ash Von comics.
Ash Vaughn comics, nice. Ah,
You're welcome.
That's
Now you,
good.
yeah,
uh,
update that. Go ahead and
That's
update
good.
all of your social medias, all your page. Ash, thank you so much for sharing those with us. We were all legitimately curious. Like I think that's part of the big reason why we look forward to these things. As we're reading it together, if anybody's reading along with us, and if you're not reading along with us, if you just remember these moments, or if you remember the run, and then us talking about it, having these discussions reminds you of these little golden nuggets and these little parts, and kind of brings back to your mind why you enjoyed this run, or maybe highlights parts of it that you didn't really pay attention to so much the first time you went through it. And then now, you're getting into it. Either way, whatever the reason is, you know, um, that's part of the joy of us having these discussions. So now that we've gotten Mr. Vaughn Comics to fill us in on what we missed last time around, we're gonna get to volume 2 of FF because boy, oh boy, I mean, we talked about me and Zach last time. We were talking about how Hickman's an architect and he's building things, and we get thrown into the first 2 issues, and we get more building. And at first, you might be a little thrown off, but after we find out why we get 2 full Inhumans, issues and everything that built up to, it really just levels up. So first impressions of this volume, I'm gonna go with my twin. Twin. First impressions.
All right.
Yeah.
So first impressions, it's we talked about, you just said Hickman is like an architect, and a lot of this has been building. I feel like it's like you build a house. You have your frames, then you put your walls up, you insulate all that stuff. This feels like he's starting to add in some little details. He's maybe building some built-in bookshelves. Maybe he's building a little custom banister for the. There's lots of little filling in of gaps, kind of some nice little details. Um, yeah, I'm a big fan of the Marvel cosmic side. You know, I've loved Guardians of the Galaxy for a long, long time. And so, yeah, when these couple of volumes open up and we're like in space and there's the Kree and you're getting like this whole backstory, and it's great because and all of this ties into that group of Inhumans that we met. God, we talked about that what 2 or 3 weeks ago. It feels like the
Mhm.
the 5 brides or the 4 brides of Black Bolt, and
Yep.
how they want to take over the Earth. So we kind of get a little backstory on how they come to be. There are 5 races that basically survived the Kree wiping out all of these planets and species that they experiment on.
Yep. The supreme
And
intelligence.
it's this the supreme intelligence of the Kree, which I forgot about, and I forgot actually how cool of a concept that is. All the great minds of the Kree get warped into this one giant floating brain. Um, yeah, so really cool. And like I said, if you like the cosmic, outer space sci-fi stuff, it's really cool. Talking about the Inhumans. The Inhumans have always been like a really cool, interesting group of. They're not your typical superhero team. They always felt more almost like Game of Thrones. Like they're like a royal family.
Yes.
But they have all of their like
Thank you.
dealings with space and then the heroes. So they're pretty
If
cool
only they
that
were
way.
done that way.
So yeah, if only Marvel had done that
Yeah, they
TV
should
show right.
abandon
God.
making not even the TV, the comics, just abandon the concept of them being
Oh
heroes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and just tell a
Yeah,
Game of Thrones style
there
drama.
were. Well, when they cast that guy who played Ramsay Bolton in Game of Thrones as the bad guy, as Maximus, I was like, oh shoot, they really are gonna go Game of Thrones. Nope, it was a red herring the whole time. They had perfect casting for that guy, and they ruined it. Um, but anyway, back to the comic. Um, yeah, some really cool stuff. Like I said, you get the origin of the five brides. Of course, one of them is gonna be my girl Medusa. Got to be. Ain't no way Medusa's stepping aside for no
You
weird
you
alien
love
horse chick.
you you love those interspecies
Medusa's one of
relationships.
Medusa's not. No, wait. Are you talking about Medusa? Or are you talking about the other
The
ones like the
five
horse head
brides
girl and
and the
no? Well,
horse.
Medusa is one of the five brides. No, Medusa is queen.
Yes,
Okay,
Medusa
of
is
the
one of the
slaves.
five brides.
Okay, but
Correct. There are
yeah,
four others.
I like how he went back on this because here's the thing: Hickman is an architect. The dude is also a master juggler. Like this is like, and he's already juggling these plates with the reeds, the council of reeds, and everything. And then as he's juggling, he's like, okay, and now I'm gonna throw the inhuman stuff in, and it's all gonna bake and mix together. And yeah, so this really fun. It kind of, there's going to be elements of the cosmic stuff that tie into. So prior to Hickman on Fantastic Four, I was telling before we started the stream, there was a Marvel cosmic event called War of Kings, which mainly centered on Black Bolt. At this point, he's like king of the Kree Empire, and it centered on him fighting um, the Shi'ar Empire, which was led by Vulcan, who was like a long lost brother of Cyclops. And so this is kind of in the aftermath of that War of Kings. And I was I'm vaguely familiar. I've forgotten some of the big details, but I'm familiar with that story. So it was kind of cool reading this and being like, oh, I remember this happening. This is what happened to Black Bolt and the Inhumans after. Oh, so I was kind of able to put some pieces together.
Yeah, the
So
Midnight
that was
King.
pretty cool too. Some familiarity. Yeah, dude, Black Bolt. I mean, I was never a huge Black Bolt fan originally. When I first got into comics, I was like, oh, he's just a mute, quiet version of Black Canary. But now, I mean, years later, I've matured and I'm more nuanced, and now I'm like, oh, Black Bolt's Black Bolt's a badass.
He's a king,
Black
baby.
Bolt makes the supreme. He makes the supreme intelligence, which isn't supposed to know fear. He has it wet in its bed because they know he's their end. So yeah,
Dude,
Black
Black
Bolt's
Bolt
pretty
is
awesome.
a badass. Keep that in
Yeah.
mind when well, we'll see how certain events play out, but
Shoot, you're reading Infinity. You know Black Bolt's a badass twin.
Oh, let me pull an Eric Breen. Just pull a book out of
you
nowhere.
you just breened us. You just breened us all.
I
Ash,
did. You just got Breen.
you just got breened. Mr. Vaughn,
yes.
Doom. Yeah, First Impressions, Volume 2. Tell me about it.
First impressions. This one's tough because I read these together, volume 1 and 2. So I don't it kind of bleeds together. I don't have like a distinct um like individual impression of it. But I will say that I felt volume 2 like up the ante from volume 1. I felt like it was getting even better. So as much as everything that I said just about volume 1 a moment ago, I liked volume 2 mostly better. And I say mostly because, man, one of the issues in this has some of the worst art. I was flipping that whole time. It was taking me out of the comic, and I was like, "What
I
is
hope you're not
going
talking
on?"
about. I know you're not talking about Greg Tuccini.
Maybe,
The first two issues of
Um,
this volume?
yeah.
I believe he is talking about your boy Greg Tuccini. I believe he is.
Sorry, and I'm not gonna say necessarily that he's a bad artist because as I was reading this book and I was done with it, I was like, you know what? I almost feel like he was called in as an emergency measure, like they needed a fill in because there's good things about this art. It just feels really rushed. some of these panels, I said this recently is a different book, unrelated, but the recent Spider-Man issue that your boy Dragotta did. I was like that. Now I know Dragotta's work, so I've seen him do so much better. But I was like, yeah, this has to be rushed.
No, I wasn't
I
rushed.
feel
That was just
I'm
house
not as
style.
familiar with Ticini.
Hmm.
Um, well, I mean, his Dragotta's Fantastic Four was seemed miles better than Spider-Man. But anyways, but not to get in the weeds.
Yeah,
There's
different
some
editors, one different
panels here,
styles.
perhaps. The editor that wanted the latter style was bad editor. Yeah, there's some panels here that I was just like, this is just unacceptable, man. This feels like napkin sketch. A lot of, I mean, it almost felt like layouts. And I was just, yeah, just wasn't digging it. Like I said, I can see that this artist knows what they're doing, and that's why I was trying to draw a conclusion where I was like, okay, this just must be rushed. I bet this artist could do so much better in a, you know, given time to pay more attention to detail and polish these renderings. Yeah, because like some of bad anatomy drawing and just stuff that was just like, oh yeah, whew. But anyways, that's my opinion. Obviously, other people may disagree. But fortunately, it wasn't the whole book. It was only the first two issues, and then we get back to Steve Epting, and then really impressed actually by the guy that finished the last two, Barry Kitson. Really was enjoying Kitson's art.
Hmm.
Anyways, I'm just trying to give impressions, and that's my impression.
Very cool. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Fun comics. Thank you. Yeah, my impressions definitely up the ante. I like where the first volume of FF, a Future Foundation, kind of left off. We needed to establish why villains are coming into the Baxter building. We needed to make sure that it at least appeared that their motivations were all on the same page with Reed and whatnot. We needed to earn all that. So getting all that built up, and then where it took us next with them having to go back to the Forever City and you know make sure that the Ascension engine or the Ascension machine, I think it's Ascension engine or Ascension machine, I can't remember which one. I think it's
I want to
Ascension
say it's
engine.
the engine. I
Yeah,
could
I
be
believe
wrong.
it's the engine. But just make sure that that does not get into the wrong hands, and they could use it along with in conjunction, I think, with Soul's Anvil, and boom, and then we get there, and we got like, so that's right where we leave off. So for that to be like where we start, but they have to bring in why the Inhumans are important, why the Inhumans have to get there first and do what they do. Yeah, just made it all earned that much more. And what I appreciated about it too, because to what to the point that Twin made earlier, it just really made me remember how sci-fi the Fantastic Four can get, and even how, and as well as how cosmic, and how Jonathan Hickman, you know, has no problem with just taking it there. He took it there. He made it matter too, because we could have easily just been like, all right, well, those were just two fill-in issues. But the scenes where the Supreme Intelligence, is getting the data from, those scientists, and as the percentages of the data is being uploaded and they're mining through it, they're parsing through the data, they're finding things that, go from, oh, this looks very positive, to, oh, there's an anomaly, to, okay, this actually, this is something that we need to be concerned about. Okay, we need to take care of this. Okay, I'm afraid. Like, I don't remember ever seeing the Supreme Intelligence fearing anything. And just
Hmm.
the way that tension started on one side and the pendulum started to swing to the other just really sold me. I felt like it sold everybody on the importance of that machine, or excuse me, of that scene. And then to go from there to the Supremer seed, and how there's an accuser from old, I think it was Kieran the accuser or something like that. And I just thought it was really cool how even the Supremer seed went into his hammer of judgment. all of that
Right.
stuff was just awesome. But
Yeah, that was cool.
so right, so cool. So just like and it was like this is going to require one thing, that's hard for the supreme intelligence to do: trust. So all of that buildup, for two issues that take. I mean, there was a little bit of Future Foundation and Fantastic Four action within there, but for it to lean so heavy on the Inhuman side, so heavy on the Kree side, two issue tour, it had to make it feel like it mattered in order for us to just be like, oh, those weren't filler. And for two issues that could still be classified as filler, it just did not feel like that. It really felt like if those issues weren't in there, we would be lacking something and it wouldn't be as earned and it might cheapen the whole entire volume. So I just love that Hickman just
Yeah.
so unafraid and so committed to making us buy into this journey and excursion and this history that he's going to fill in matter. And then boom, after we get it all, okay, like I'm not going to make you wait a long time to see it pay off. Here's why you needed to know all of that information. And then not only that, just to get to that moment, then to get to the end of this volume and see that stuff pay directly off even there. Again, just the architecture of Hickman and how he just arranged this run, man, just impressive. Really, just impressive. You really, really see him
He
in his prime, leaps and bounds above and beyond damn near everyone at Marvel at the time, with the exception of like a handful of people.
Yeah. You think it's gonna be like like a two-sided thing, like, okay, here's one side, here's the other side. Hickman's such a magician, he makes a third side pop out of somewhere, and you're just like, what? Where did they like? Yeah, when this volume ends, like the cliffhanger that this ends on, you're just like, how did he do that? Where did you see where it comes from? It's not just, it doesn't just come out of nowhere, but just the organic way that it happens. um it's awesome the way that he does that, because you think you go into this, you're like, okay, well, I know it's gonna be Future Foundation on this corner, and this corner is like the Universal Inhumans, but then no, you're like, oh no, in that corner, here come the Kree Empire, or in
Yep.
this corner, here come the Reeds and the Molemen
Mm-hmm.
and the evolved people. So yeah, it's awesome.
So yeah, so many really three-dimensional story. But so yeah, those are our first impressions of Future Foundation Volume 2. Just from hearing us discuss that small section, you can really see how the ante is just being upped. The tensions are rising, the story is building. Oh my gosh, and we aren't even at some of the coolest parts of the run yet. We've had some, no doubt about it,
we're
but just
we're
some of
just
the
in
ones,
space.
we're just in space right now, or we were. And then we came crashing back down to Earth. And now that we're back down to Earth, let's talk about some of our favorite moments that stood out. Ash on Comics, Ash Vaughn with the V Comics. Go ahead and throw it out to us. What was your standout moment, or at least one that stood out to you enough to want to let people know about it?
Well, I keep having problems with this rendezvous app that we're using to stream here. I keep losing. I keep cutting out. I can't see. Give me half a second.
Mm-hmm. Half a second. There we go. You
Uh,
are back.
that's probably more than half a second, but thank you for being patient with me. Now I can see again. Um, I have this little section here.
Nice. There she is. There's the other piece of eye candy of this whole story, besides Sue Storm.
Yeah. So this is kind of the I don't know why this scene I kind of do know why it stuck out. I love Victor Von Doom. He's my favorite comic book character, and I love that they managed to find a way to fit Doom in as an ally without making it silly. We talked about this before, like the idea. I don't jive with the idea of trying to make Doom a hero or anything like that, and so he's not working out of any sort of goodness of his heart. He's working for his own selfish motives. But it just so happens that his motives are aligned with the Fantastic Four for now. And so it's kind of cool to be like, oh, the Fantastic Four plus Doom on their side. Like, what can't they do? And I think one of the things I'm really enjoying about this is that Hickman has set the stage of like, yeah, even Fantastic Four with Doom on their side, the odds are still pretty stacked against them. And you're like, damn, that's because that's just how big the threat is, and that keeps you really engaged. But here we get to see Doom. He's been standing around, being menacing a lot, being very doomy, like he is. But seeing him get to be in action and flex his muscles is always a fun time. And we're here at the scene where the multiverse reads, I guess the council of reads, what's left of them. They're trying to do their little agenda, and they're basically going to let this Earth die so that they can do their own motives. And so Doom is working with Fantastic Four. It so happens they need to stop him. So here he is, and I don't know if he's not lifting a mountain. He's lifting a massive amount of Earth. And you're like, yeah, go Doom. And we get to this scene where one of the reads, let's see if I can, is like, a Doom. You picked the wrong day to interfere with our plans. Whoops. Wrong click of the mouse there. And then it just, this just makes me laugh every time I see it. You picked the wrong day to interfere with our plans, and then do not speak unless it is to answer my questions. Backhands him. Understand?
That needs
Now,
to
what
be
does your
somebody's
weapon do? How does it
profile
work? And you're just
picture.
like, oh my goodness. Just, oh, I just love that. I just love it. Just, and what these reads can do. Like, that's the thing. Hickman has set this up. Like, you, I feel like they're a threat. Like, they've killed multiple, well, not killed, but they've lobotomized like dozens and dozens of Doctor Dooms before. So you're like, oh no, what's gonna happen? He just backhands. It's so perfect. What? No, what? And then Doom, of course, how Doom always goes out. This is another thing too. He never sees the things that are the most obvious. Doom is like a master. He can defeat Thanos, who has the Infinity Gauntlet. He can defeat Beyonders. There's nothing Doom can't do when he sets his mind to it. But for some reason, he's his own worst enemy, and he always misses the most terribly obvious thing. No matter how many times it stabs him in the back, and that's the other bad guys. Other bad guys are not to be trusted. You can't work with them. They're bad guys. Um, and you'd think Doom, of all people, would know this. So he's focusing on the read, and then boom, uh, Diablo, and I think that's the Mad
Mad
Thinker.
Thinker.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, look at that, Diablo. He didn't account for the variables. He didn't consider the options. You have to factor in everything before you can factor us out. Solve for X, Victor. Solve for X. Or you could just lay there and burn. Wah-ha! Like everyone else will, just like the world. And it's just such classic, like, superhero, uh, super villain, that melodrama. Look at that pose, even. It's like, wah-ha-ha. It's just Doom's on fire and just laying there. And it's a great panel.
Yeah.
Full page spread, just Doom's on fire. And it's just, it's just, and that's the end of the issue. And you're like, oh, big cliffhanger, right? Well, the very next issue we pick up, and whoops, Doom's like, fire. You tried to kill me with fire? Folly. I have burned before. As we all know, there's a reason why Doom is misfigured. World be damned, Doom endures. And it's, the typical to teach them the error of their ways. Just as much as Doom never learns from these villains backstabbing him, they never learn that every time they backstab him, it never goes their way. So it's like a tit for tat. I didn't find it as funny as I'm kind of laughing about it out now, but it did make me smile inside. And this is just part of the joy that I get from Doom. I get to see him being a villain. And this the way this whole scene played out, I was just kind of like, bravo, Hickman. This is you got the classic comics Doom that I love so much. And I just thought it was really well executed. I think was a total of 3 or 4 pages, and yeah, it just this scene just all together just made me smile. When you can pull off Doom in ways that are super memorable, and this is to me is a memorable scene of Doom. Um,
Hmm.
that goes a big way in my book. So yeah, I'm biased, but that's my standout moment.
Very nice, very nice. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, a lot of classic mini moments within that Doom scene. It really was incredible. One of my favorite scenes for sure. All right, twin. What do you got for me? What was the scene that stood out that you got to let people know about so they can mull over it again, read it again, relive it all again? What do you got?
Mine, okay, mine's a little subtle. It's a two-part scene actually. I told y'all the first part. There is a second part that connects to it. Uh, so set the scene. Reed and Spider-Man, they've they're in Adelan. They're talking with Black Bolt and Medusa. My book does not have page numbers, Skip. I do apologize for that.
No
Um,
worries.
but yeah, they're in Adelan, and they have to they're getting ready to leave. Their ship was destroyed during this whole epic battle with the Reeds and the evolved people in the evolutionary city. So Medusa's like, well, you can take this door, you can take what she called it, Eldrac.
Hmm.
And she's like, the door will take you where you need to be. And so Spider-Man, being the everyman, Spider-Man is kind of a cool choice to be this, unofficial fourth member of the Fantastic Four, because he's always been kind of the everyman of Marvel. He's smart, he's a genius, but he's not like elite like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs smart. He's like a regular Joe. And so being that everyday Joe that we kind of have a window into, he's kind of like, we're getting a glimpse of the Fantastic Four through his eyes. He's asking like, what does she mean when she's like, the door will take you where you need to be? And so Reed answers and he's like, the door understands your desires. If you want to, it'll take you not just where you think you should be, but where you need to be. And Hickman does this with just a couple of words. He really this hit home, especially when you think about there's that whole little short story about Spider-Man and Franklin after Johnny dies, and and Spider-Man's telling Johnny, "I know I could have saved my uncle," and all that. Thinking about that especially, there's probably a few other moments with Spider-Man that you could plug in here and interchange, but Spider-Man, when he hears like the door will take you where you need to be or where you want to be, he's like, his first thing is like, can you take it? Can it take you back in time? And Reed is like, kind of almost like vibing, like sensing what he's trying to say. He's like, and erase your sins and stop yourself from making horrible mistakes that we've all made. And Spider-Man's like, yeah, can it do that? And Reed, of course, being the explorer, adventurer that he is, he's like, well, only one way to find out. And then they go into the door. So I love that little scene right there. It's small, it's subtle, kind of in the grander scheme of things. But being a guy that likes Spider Man, again, he's kind of like the everyman superhero. And just seeing like, because he's still, I mean, I think rightfully, he does feel responsible for these mistakes that he's made, whether it's you know letting Uncle Ben die because he felt like a jerk one day and let a robber go loose, or whether it's him making a deal with Mephisto to save his aunt that you know resulted in his marriage dissolving. Uh, he's just like, oh, there's this do over I get. There's this mulligan. Like I kind of think I want to do that. Um, so I thought that was a really neat little moment. I think that's the last page of that issue too. So I was like, oh, that's
Yep.
kind of a cool issue a cool page to end on. But
Really cool
then
page to
part
end
two,
on.
yeah, yeah. Uh, the second part though of that story, I think it's at the end of the very next issue. It actually, and this is one reason I like it. It ties into a title that I was reading at the time, which was Bendis's New Avengers. Nobody laugh at me. Yes, I like the Bendis book. So
You're not
let's just
alone.
get that on the air. So this is at the Avengers Mansion, and we see Ben Grimm, the Thing. At this point, he had joined the new Avengers team. Luke Cage came to him and invited him onto the team, and so he's been with them. He kind of left. He took a break from the Fantastic Four, the Future Foundation. So Ben's on the phone, and he's talking. I don't. He doesn't say who he's talking to. I assume it's either Reed or Sue. And so you see him like having this conversation. He's like, I'm not sure. I'll think about it. Okay, bye. It's kind of funny. Then you see him with like his giant fingers and operating this little Motorola flip phone. And so he says, "What do you think?" He turns over to this person, and it turns out it's Spider-Man who's chilling there. He's eating a sandwich. He's got a fruity drink, just making the most out of being in the Avengers mansion. And he's like, "Well, I think when I went through that door, I kept saying these things like, I need $1 million, or I need to go to Tahiti, or I need all these things. Like we think of a genie, or if we had a way to give us wishes, like the things that we would think we need. But then he's like, well, what do I get? I show up here at the Avengers Mansion, I get a burger, a fruity drink, and I'm talking to you. And he's like, so I think what I needed was to be here and tell you a piece of advice, like kind of give you some advice, give you a nudge in the right direction. And I like that because Spider-Man and the Thing, while not like as close as Spider-Man with Human Torch, they do still have a camaraderie. When I was reading Bendis's New Avengers, they were two of the tighter teammates on the team. Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, they've overlapped a good bit. Um, so yeah, it was kind of fun to see that. Like Spider-Man, he goes into the door thinking like, hey, I might have a shot at a mulligan at you correct these past mistakes, and he doesn't get that. But what he does get is he goes through and he gets to be an encouragement for a guy who's a teammate, and a friend of his. So I did appreciate that. Again, not huge, not like a big like, oh wow, that's such an awesome scene, but it is a nice subtle Hickman does the subtle just as well as he does like the big eye-catching, like amazing grand pieces as well. So I appreciated that.
Absolutely.
I
I
agree. I
agree.
think it's I'm glad that you picked this as your standout because I think the subtleties like this are
Hmm.
some of the most important things. I think that's what actually makes, in my opinion, Hickman so grand. I mean, I like his big
Hmm.
scope thinking, but I love that he doesn't
Yeah.
miss these type of things. That's where it stands out. If his book just had the big brain moments only, I would still think that they're probably pretty cool, but this is like the icing on the cake to me.
Yeah.
This is what makes his books really stand out and just feel masterful compared to your standard comic book writers. Is that he's on both ends of the spectrum. And yeah, the bravo moment. I love that was one of my favorite parts too, where just a little like two panels of
Yeah.
Peter exchanging with Reed about what could send you back in time. And you as a reader, I love that Hickman doesn't have to spell it out for you, right? He doesn't have to
Hmm.
put a narrative box and be like, and Peter thought about his Uncle Ben, but he doesn't do that. Like you get it. And then even Reed doesn't say like, oh, you want to go back to save Uncle Ben. Like he doesn't say Reed doesn't spell it out either. And it's just,
Right.
but you get it. And it's so elegant. And then here too, I love this. It's you get a mix of the funny and the heart, you know. I didn't catch on the
Hmm.
first pass that Jarvis was delivering the burger and the fruity drink.
Yeah.
So Peter took those drinks when he teleported in. Um, and yeah, just when he turns around and Peter's just sitting there, chomp chomp, nom, 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 just eating and be like, "Hey, buddy, what's going on?" It's a mix of funny, and then you get that one line where he's like, "So what I think is that I needed to be here to tell you something, and what's that? Go home." And it's just boom. That's the end of the
Yep.
scene, and it's so perfect. It's time to go home, Ben. Like you've been mulling this, you've been grieving too long. Um, Go back to your family. And yeah, just perfect. This is like why Peter, because the whole time I'm reading these books, FF, I'm like, man, Peter feels a little bit forced. That's one of my slight critiques, is that Spider-Man feels a little bit forced, but moments like this make me feel like, oh, Spider-Man's important.
Absolutely. He's been there since the first
Totally.
volume. All right. Well, twin, a great one. Ash, you shared an awesome one as well. Mine's is going to be kind of piggybacking off, or I should not piggybacking off because I had already picked it before we got started, but it does coincide with them going to Eldrak, the door, and then ending up wherever they were going to be. I'm over here at this scene where Nathaniel Richards, who was with them in Atalan,
Oh,
he
good
also
pick.
walked up to the door as well, and
Oh.
we
Good
find
pick.
out where he ended up going. So the only
Mhm.
alternate universe Reed that didn't get captured, that confronted Doom and ended up outsmarting Doom, making him his boon. Let's bring back some of that old, some of that old comic book, lingo. But now, tricked Doom, put the latch around his neck. He's controlling him. He tells Doom to take him to Latveria. And then Nathaniel Richards shows up, and he's at Latveria as well. Old Reed starts running down, oh, Nathaniel Richards, I remember my Nathaniel Richards, my dad, he, had to leave me to go off and, do the time war, Nathaniel Richards, battle. And what's interesting, I thought what was really cool about this part, before I even get to my part, is once we see, like, we find out which Nathaniel Richards was this Reed Richards' dad, and it ended up being the one that was like one of the last two left, and ended up fighting against it was Ben Grimm, young Ben Grimm, young Victor Von Doom, young Reed Richards, and the other Nathaniel, and Doom ended up killing him. Like, they defeated him, and Doom killed him, so this Nathaniel Richards could be the last one. That doesn't come out, but they show a flashback just to remind us, like, oh snap, like, you got Doom under your control right now, not knowing, like, you would kill him if you knew that he's the one that killed your Nathaniel Richards, your dad. So I just loved
Yeah.
how, like, Hickman tied that in there as well. But he's asking, though, this Reed, he's asking, oh, okay, so you went through the door with Eldrak, and you ended up here. Okay, so you must be here to, help Victor. And then he starts getting ready, like he's going to, dispatch of this Nathaniel Richards. And we come, and Nathaniel Richards starts talking to him, and he's like, what, oh, so you are here because Doom needs you. Very well. I suppose I will have to. And then that Reed stops, and he looks over, and he's like, why are you looking at me like this? And the last Nathaniel Richards has to tell him, because sometimes you're an idiot, Reed. I'm not here because Victor needs me. I'm here because you do.
Yeah.
And
That
again,
that
it's,
hit me.
oh
God.
man, like, like, every boy needs a father. Our Franklin Richards in the future
Yep.
didn't just send this Nathaniel back to be 616 Reed's dad and be there for him. He sent him back, and he's even there for this multiversal, other Reed Richards. And man, I love the whole concept of, you can be super smart and still overlook things, and especially when it comes to family. There's IQ, and these
Mhm.
days we hear people talk about emotional IQ, and it's just interesting how,
Mhm.
reads tend to be so high IQ, but this one lacks the emotional IQ and completely looks past the fact to realize that the significance of this Nathaniel Richards isn't necessarily just for Doom. It's actually for him too. And it's that parental wisdom where, you might have gotten to the age where you can think on the same plane as your parents, But then
Right.
there you go spouting your thing out, and here they come with that parental, just OG wisdom. Like, you're so smart, you overlooked all of that.
You can never get on the same plane as your parents because as you advance, they're advancing.
Exactly. They
Right?
Yep.
continue to. Yes.
Yeah.
So
they're they're always a generation ahead of you.
always.
Exactly.
So that was my part. That's the one that really just hit me. I was like, whoa, okay, Hickman, like,
That's a good one.
so good. And it's so crazy because, again, as I'm thinking about me have already like reading this, I think to the very end, I think to the last, literally the last pages of this entire run. And my gosh, like throughout this whole, that's one of the things that I really appreciate about Hickman is that he does like he does like these meditations, and not in the sense of, as we think of like, Eastern, spiritual meditation where you sit, you're supposed to sit down and, and chant or something or whatever, or even, whatever meditations, internal, whatever, not in that sense, but in the sense of like, how, how like, you might have heard how cows like eat, they have multiple stomachs. So they'll like,
Hmm.
eat some grass and then, and then they chew it and they swallow it and then it, and then
Yeah.
it comes back up and then so they're like getting all the nutrients out of this food because it continues to go down and come back in their system and they continue to chew on it. Meditating in that way, as you're meditating on these themes, he continues to throw those things out so they're in our consciousness, so we're like, okay, all hope lies in doom. Okay, every boy needs a father. Like he continues to do those things. Oh, okay, taking responsibility and growing, as a person, as a, as a character, as a character, because it builds character. All of that stuff he just continues to throw out at the right times. And some people, I mean, some could say he's laying it on thick, but I just think he's just being extremely intentional about what he wants you to get from the story in this storm of all this cosmic crazy sci-fi stuff happening. He returns to these themes and he's so consistent throughout that when by the time you get to the end of it, you're just like, you even if you forget stuff, he's so intentional about the themes, you feel them even if you don't consciously think about them, because he didn't give you much of an opportunity to really not orbit around the themes. So that was my moment.
Well, here's what I say to that.
Nice.
We didn't even get a 3-2-1. Ash, no 3-2-1.
And I can't 3-2-1 that would feel weird. I'm
Should have
already on
three.
the stream.
I think
But
I think it's weird that
I
you
wanted to
didn't
drink to
three
that.
two one it. That's what I think.
Ah,
But that's
well,
that's
we should have
just
done that at
fine
the
here.
beginning.
No
That's true.
lies.
Yeah, it might have worked better at the beginning.
No lies detected. Well, put her there, pal. For people that are listening only, me and Ash just toasted, and I'm taking down a
Yeah.
ginger lime mule seltzer here.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Ooh.
Oh, you bet your fanny it is. Twin, taking
I'm
down some.
drinking.
What you got? What you
What you
got,
got there,
Ash?
bestie?
Bestie, I'm drinking some high quality H2O.
High
Eee.
quality H2O. Oh, that's better
Yeah,
than
high quality
tap water.
water.
Oh, you said high
High
quality.
quality tap.
There's what the? I am drinking
High
very
quality
much brand.
tap.
I'm drinking very much brand appropriate Evil Dead Red from AleSmith
Ooh.
Brewing
Ooh.
Company. It's local
Ooh.
San Diego brewer.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Very
they
cool.
made this Evil Dead Red. I saw it at Costco and I was like, I'm buying that.
Oh yes. Oh
And
yes,
it
baby.
is. Oh, and also, this is not something that I approve of, but I do think it's kind of characteristically funny. Guess what the alcohol percentage is?
69.
6.66.
You got it in one. 6.66 alcohol percentage.
I knew
Which
it.
is
I
really
knew it.
high.
I
That's
knew
a
it.
12%. That's a 12 proof beer.
Yeah,
It's pretty strong.
Wow.
That thing's no joke, man. Well, now that we have wet the whistles after giving y'all our best moments, we've all toasted. We let you know what the beverages are. We didn't get a 3-2-1. That's a fail. It's okay. It's Ash Von Comics. He doesn't need your apologies. He will take what is
Exactly.
his. All
I am
right,
the
let's go.
creator of my own intros. I do them as I wish.
There you go. Um,
Imitators have to follow the rules. I set them.
there he is. Spoken like a true Doom. So here we are. We're at the point where it's open discussion. We can just talk about whatever parts of this particular volume that stuck out to us. Ash, I'm gonna jump down to you. You're getting your you got that that Evil Dead red flowing through your Latverian veins. Let us
I
know
do, man.
some other things that
These are
stepped out.
pints. They're not even like little cans. They're like full pint. So by the time I'm done with this, I'm gonna be lightheaded.
Oh, well, that's when we go into the after talk. So for
Oh,
y'all who are watching the VOD, if you're not watching
boy.
live on twitch.tv/skipandtosh, you better come over there because after we cut this stream off and we end this discussion, we ain't done talking. Further comic talks do happen, and you
Oh
just
yeah.
might catch Mr. Ash Sloshed Comics talk on a fun night.
I
Slosh
feel a
comics.
little left out. I'm gonna be back in like 10 seconds. Y'all keep going.
Sounds good. We're gonna go over to Ash. Ash, give us some more things about this particular here run that or this volume that stuck out to you.
I really like the beginning issues where it kind of features the Inhumans. Led like Black Bolt kind of awakes. I guess he gets revived. I don't really know the history of how this all happened with Black Bolt, but apparently he was supposed to be dead. And I like the whole cosmic stuff. Him kind of being he's reborn, and then I guess he's the humans were leading the Kree for a while, and it kind of I just feel like there's this cool, a lot of like lore, and I do love world building and lore, and I loved how it tied in with the Supreme Intelligence. I loved how there was this backstory that you didn't really understand what was going to go with it about thousands of years ago where he foresaw his own doom, and you talked about the seed and everything, and how Black Bolt decides like we got to go, we're going back to Earth. He takes his Inhumans back to Earth, and he leaves Ronan in charge. And then I was like, well, why would you leave Ronan in charge? And sure enough, Ronan was planning on betraying him the whole time, and he just made it all easy, and everything worked out in his favor. And also in turn because of later events that they would be delivering to Reed Richards to his cause, like just it enabled them to rebuild the intelligence. I liked how the Inhumans were brought back. I never cared for the Inhumans until this volume of comics. I always thought the Inhumans were dumb, but that's how effective Hickman's writing is. That he can just show the potential and just be like, and it just made me see like what we were talking before. Like, oh, I can totally see how the Inhumans could be done awesome now.
I
I'd
love
never
this
seen their
panel.
potential before.
I love this panel right here where Black Bolt
Yes.
comes back into the auditorium and he just like blows this guy away. He just screams like, and Black Bolt, he can just whisper something and you're dead. This dude, he's like yelling that he's
Yes.
awake and like that was an awesome scene.
Yes. And it's really cool because you get the followers, that they're like, because he says he's leaving them,
Hmm.
and he's like, you came here and we gave you the crown. We followed you into war that almost destroyed us, and now you're gonna run away? Do we ask too much of you? Is the burden too great? You seemed eager enough not long ago. Tell us what's different, Black Bolt. Tell me what has changed. And then the advisor just goes and whispers in Black Bolt's ears. He says he wants to know. Tell him, brother. And you just see him lean forward in his throne, and he's real small. I am awake. And then you just get that awesome panel shot. This that guy is annihilated. Um, yeah,
Yep.
that was a really cool scene. Again, and Hickman reminds you of the power of Black Bolt, which I think is going to be important because of future events. But uh, I like how
Yeah.
Hickman sets up. he does a thing that I really like in writers. I have some other favorite writers that do the same thing, that you build the power of the character, so when you see that character taken down, it feels impactful, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
it's like the scene that I picked out tonight when the Reed Richards like, oh, it's another Doom. We eat Dooms for breakfast, or like, he doesn't say that exactly. I'm paraphrasing, but you as a reader buy into that because for many issues previous, we've seen these Reeds built up and what they can do, right? And they mentioned in a previous scene how they like took down a Beyonder in one of the universes. Like they're just like, they're awesome. So when Doom backhands him, that makes that impact. You're like, oh, um, and that's really important, is to set that foundation. And so Black Bolt, Hickman right now is saying this guy's not to be trifled with. Um, and yeah, anyways, uh, so that's something that stood out to me. And I mean, the small moments. I think it's interesting that our biggest impact the moments were the little details. There's so much big, epic plot stuff going on, but none of us chose that as uh, our big
Yeah.
impacts. Another thing that stood out to me was where we find that Reed gets sent through the machine.
Mm.
He gets sent back to Baxter Building
I did.
where Sue is just doing
Yeah.
some botany, you
Yeah.
know.
I really like that
And
scene. Yeah, that was a good one.
yeah, it's a really nice scene just between a man, husband and wife, and it's these scenes like this. I think some people don't care, but I like when you can write women strong without having to make them men. And I know this is something I feel like I beat as a dead horse, but Sue is strong because she's a good woman. Like she's
Hmm.
she's strong in even her submission, and we see that her willingness to be a good wife not only makes Reed better as who he is as a husband, but also makes her able to kind of get through to him, right? If she were just like masculine and aggressive and just domineering to him, it wouldn't work. Her power to him and influencing him, shaping his direction, getting him to see clearly the things he should be seeing is because of who her strength as a woman. And that's I think hard to do, especially for male writers. So I was like, bravo, Hickman.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
it's really cool just because so she comes at the problem or the situation, she comes at it from a different angle. She says like
yeah,
you've been thinking and wearing yourself out trying to prevent this from happening, and maybe this is just supposed to be happening the whole time, and we just need to figure out a way to get through it. So yeah, I had this conversation with somebody. It's like, because yeah, it's a lot of people, a lot of like modern writers like, well, the woman has to be just the same as the man. It's like, one man should equal, the same stuff as. It's like, well, it's not really a one equals one. It's more like, you think of the number four. You have 2 plus 2 equals 4, and you have 3 plus 1 equals 4. They both equal 4. They add up to the same value, but there's different ways, that they contribute. So I think it's kind of the same thing here. Sue is showing a different approach to the whole situation, but she's not emasculating Reed. She's kind of almost leading him around, like presenting her argument and letting him come to the conclusion by himself. Like, yeah, we should actually just be, working through this instead of trying to prevent it. Um, I also like this little panel. It's the middle one right here, where Reed's like, "Yeah, you're right," and she's like, "I know," and she's like doing this little smirk as she like keeps her. She's like, "Yeah, I know." That was kind of fun. So, but no, this is a good scene. I was thinking about this one for my scene. There were a bunch of like smaller, subtle moments like this. Yeah, you were right. There's a ton of this particular run has a lot of those little smaller character scenes or character moments that were just dynamite scenes.
Yeah, and I like at the end of the scene when well, I guess it's a few scenes later, but it's the end of that particular scene where uh thing or Spider-Man lands like some jet thing, fantastic car. I don't know what the hell the thing's called, but he's back and he's like, I got someone who wants to see you. And then Ben, he's got Ben with him, and they kind of have a nice little, a few panels of like, oh, well, welcome back to, just kind of like that camaraderie, that family feeling.
Yeah.
Then on the last panel, the page turn where Ben's like, yeah, and I thought maybe we could use some help. And he points over his shoulder, and it's the Avengers, and you're like,
Uh huh.
oh boy, this shit's starting to go down. It's like
Yep.
Hickman's just building to the escalate to the next level. Now it's Fantastic Four plus the Doom and his team plus now the Avengers. Oh man. Oh,
Yep. Bendis served a purpose here. What Bendis was doing, Hickman was like, you know, I see what you're doing over there with the thing on the Avengers team. I'm gonna make that a little. I'm gonna bring that in. I'm gonna make that a key ingredient in my cake that I'm baking over here. I like that.
Absolutely. And yeah, for people that
So
were
yeah,
reading at the
I
time. Oh, were you saying, Twin?
oh no, oh no, you go ahead, man. You got it.
Okay. Yeah, no, just for people that are reading at the time, it was, you know, when they, and not that it's easy. I don't want to make it seem like it is, but when they cared enough to put in the extra time and attention to detail, to make continuity have that much more weight, people reading multiple series are really feeling the connectivity between everything. It just it's that extra level of service, and I don't want to say fan service and make it sound like it's cheap, which I don't feel like fan service is cheap. I mean, to service the people that buy your books, it's just good business and respect.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I feel like it does go beyond that a little bit too, and it really just it respects the fact that we are investing money into this company. We are investing our time and our emotions into these stories, and to get dividends paid back, to get some return on our investment, and through the creative process, is very, very gratifying for us comic book fans. So
I
good.
think fan
Yeah.
service gets
Mhm.
cheap when you rely on it. If you don't actually have any real meat to your story and you're just relying on fan service, that's where it feels cheap.
Mm,
But Hickman can get away with it because there's so much meat, so much, dense stuff to chew on, that the fan service is like, that extra goodies. Like, oh, after we get some of that too, like nice.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. At that point, it's not even something that he's getting away with. At that point, it's something that he is giving away to us.
Right.
And
yeah.
we deserve to have it in it. In its in a high form. Yeah, as opposed to it being a crutch. When it can be a stare, then we feel good about it, and we really like that. Let me see some things
Yeah.
that stood out to me. Other than how much I enjoyed Greg Tutini's two issues. Uh, let me see. I think I kind of talked about some of them. Oh, okay, yeah, I got one. Here we go. So going back to little scenes and stuff here, I really just enjoyed this
I
little
like.
part here. Again, like
Yeah.
just a little innocent moments with the kids. Um, you got Franklin and you got Leech, and Franklin's trying to teach Leech about walkie-talkie etiquette, and Leech just doesn't get it. Young Franklin Richards, locked out. What does it say? Locked out in horror at the scary scariness below. What he saw was worse than the worstest bad dream he could imagine. Bad breath, or he can imagine bad breath, bad bedwetting, bad. So he did the only thing a cowboy can do in moments like these: call for a superhero team. Hyperstorm to Kid Incredible. Hyperstorm to Kid Incredible. Do you read me? Over. Leech. Over. Franklin. Over. Leech. Over. Franklin. No, Leech. I say over, and then you say something else back, okay? Leech. Okay. Franklin. Over. Franklin just
He
throws,
just gives him the
gives him
stink
the
eye.
stink eye. And then Leech just says, over. And then Franklin just sighs. Ugh. Like, dude, you are thick. I cannot get you to understand this. It's just, yeah, man, just more of those, more of those little moments. I just appreciate them so much. Oh, there was another one. Was this one earlier on? Let me see. Yeah, this one was a little earlier. This was on the Steve Epting issue. I'm trying to get back to. Here we go. Okay, really, it's the whole scene. So I love this so much. I love this way more than I should probably, but I don't care. I don't care. So
I
Bentley.
think I know what it is.
Yeah. So Valeria was trying to break out of her room because we as Sue was talking to Reed, she was talking to Nathaniel, and Nathaniel, she was grilling, Reed's dad, and he's like, I think you should bring Valeria in on this, and she's like, no, Valeria, I've sent Valeria to her room. She will not be a part of this. So Valeria got stuck in her room, and she's trying to like hack it to like, break out, do a little prison break out of her room, and her dad, like, the security system stopped her, and then like a digital version of her dad scolds her, and she gets 20 more minutes added on, and then she throws a plant, and she got like another 20 minutes added on because of that. So she's all steaming from that, and then all of a sudden you see like a blowtorch thing going in a square, and then the little square gets kicked in, and it's of course I knew who it was, from reading it before, but I did forget. I'm like, this has to be Bentley. Who else would be doing this? And he kicks it in, and it's Bentley, and Bentley's like, it's snack time. So Bentley like breaks Val out of her room, with a blowtorch, being the little diabolical villain that he aspires to be, even though he's like hanging out with all these superheroes. So it's snack time, and Bentley's all like, you can't trust me. I could be lying. In fact, I probably am. I'm a bad guy, So, what's it going to be, Val? Bag number 1 or bag number 2? And Val's like, bag number 2. He's like, you sure? And she's like, yeah, you kept glancing at it. One time you licked your lips. Now gimme. And he's like, fine. And he gives her the bag. She's like, Pop-Tart. Nice. What was in the other bag? And Bentley's like, apple. Worst snack ever. I don't know. That should not be that funny to me. But just the fact that like Val like totally exposed him, like had the upper hand on this guy the whole time. She breaks him down. She gets the Pop-Tart. Bentley gets left with the apple. And he's honest about it. He's just like, look at this apple. This sucks. Like you totally won. It's just I just love that part so much, man. It was just a good time. So that was another one that stood out to me.
One scene that I really like. Speaking of Bentley, um, talking about his creator or his
Mm-hmm.
father, quote unquote,
Yes.
the wizard. So
Oh
there's a scene.
yes.
It's right after Bentley like blowtorches into Val's room. It's like when
Mm-hmm.
he says, "So it's snack time." There's a scene on the next page, and it's quick, but it's so funny to me. I don't know why. Y'all could tell me if it's just me. So it's in the Forever City. At this point, the attack is going on. Future Foundation is there. The villains
Yes.
have split up into teams. So there's Wizard is there. He's got his AIM goons with him, and he's like gloating as he's fighting. He's like, I'm not afraid of persecution. Have you heard the good news? It's just one panel. There's no follow up. The very next one you see is Reed's like he's like scanning the battlefield, right? So he's like, oh, the wizard just went down. It's like he's gloating. He's like, and Reed's like, oh, there goes the wizard. We just lost. And then his dad's like, oh, good, good. It's like it's really quick, but it's just, to me it's so funny because Wizard is just kind of just, he thinks he's like this genius guy, and maybe to the normal Joe he is, but he's in the future. He's with Doom and Reed and all these other geniuses, so he's kind of like the lower end of the IQ spectrum with them
Yeah.
all. And so just like it doesn't even they don't even give him the respect to show him getting defeated. It's just like
No.
Reed's just like, oh yeah, he went down.
Dude, that was a good, especially like because the wizard now, after he had gotten captured by Reed, and then he didn't have access to his helmet, so he had all this time, to
Hmm.
kind of be with his own thoughts, which started to in a sense drive him mad. He's saying he's getting all these visions from God and stuff like that. He starts speaking all biblical. He's kind of like he's paraphrasing scripture, and he's just thinking of himself as like this martyr type figure who is serving this, this pious purpose, in a sense. And he's just, but and what and the interesting thing is, as much as he's made a mockery of, he equally does make points that end up sticking. It's just like he's playing a role. He thinks his role should be bigger than it actually is. So his
Hmm.
delusions of grandeur is what we laugh at, and that's what's being mocked. But the things that he's actually saying tend to like continue to like he's more prophetic than he's not as important as he thinks he is, but he is prophetic. Like
Yeah.
those things do end up coming to be, but it's his misplaced sense of importance and ego, even though he
Right.
thinks it's rooted, in something beyond him. It's still a bit misplaced because at the end of the day, he's still a villain. So it's just
Hmm.
interesting, like the nuances and subtleties of the way that Hickman plays that. It's he's not like he ultimately ends up respecting the character while also like mocking the grandiose nature of who Wizard thinks he is now. It's interesting how much more humble Wizard was before he got captured by the Fantastic Four, but he also wasn't as mentally clear. Um, so yeah, it's just very interesting the way that Hickman plays, with that topic. But anything else to
Yeah.
share, y'all? If not, we'll go over to conclusions and then wrap this thing up.
Well, I was just gonna say the scene you described, I didn't quite find as funny as you did.
Oh,
But
okay.
but what I did find though is that the part that right before it was the part I actually liked best of that scene,
Hmm.
where Val's trying to break out before Bentley shows up,
Yes.
Oh yeah.
where she's just in her room and she's like trying to like hot wire the panel. She's like, "All right, connect the red wire to the yellow wire," and then it's like, bzzzt, unauthorized access, denied accessing message. Uh, Valora. No, it says Val 0024. You know better, young lady. Love, Dad. Like timeout extended 20 minutes, and she like throws a plant at it. And then it's like bzz, timeout extended 40 minutes. Huh? Like just that got I kind of got a kick out of me, like because the whole time she's been outsmarting her dad, and breaking into places
Yeah.
she's not supposed to. So I'm like, the scene opened up. I was like, oh, here she goes again. She's gonna outsmart her dad. And I think it was because he kind of set that expectation in me where I was like kind of just getting like rolling my eyes like, oh, she's smarting your dad again, and like goes against my expectations, and like Reed outsmarted her. Just the message, you know better, young lady. Love, Dad. Just like she's like, just timeout extended. Just, ah,
It
that's
was
just such
so
a
good.
Reed way to do things.
Right, yeah. Of course he's going to govern through intellect and technology, and
Right.
and he may not
Hmm.
presently physically be there, but
Right.
his presence is felt. Yeah, man. No, that was a good one. Yeah, this man, it's these little things, man. It's like this is what I mean, like, and if Hickman left these out, I think we
Mhm.
could still look at the run and be like, oh, it's a pretty grand run with all these big ideas and okay, like the Future Foundation, opens things up beyond just the Fantastic Four. So like villains were a
Yeah.
part of the Future Foundation and the kids were and you got Alex Powers and like all that stuff. But he still took the time to put in like little character moments, things like I said, that people don't really talk about a whole lot from him as much anymore. We do think of Hickman as the grand architect and stuff. And, I think, we definitely, Avengers and New Avengers was much more serious.
Mhm.
It wasn't about a family. It wasn't as intimate. It was way much more about the plot. I mean, they gave him a task. They're like, we're gonna reboot Marvel, and we're gonna reboot Marvel. We're going to get rid of the Ultimate Universe, and we want you to do it, and we know that you can build to it. So he kind of did have to focus on plot a little bit more, and not that there weren't any character moments. There were. We just got less character moments. We got less levity, but it really makes me like as big as as grand as this and magnanimous as a lot of the things that we're covering over here is for this Fantastic Four run. It does really make me appreciate the fact that this is a little bit more of an intimate story. It is a little
Mhm.
bit more intimate, even though we got the Kree, you know, the Supremer seed reemerging, and the reemergence of the Supreme Intelligence, and we got Inhumans, Universal Inhumans. Even though we're still dealing with that, you have these very grounded moments, and it just makes things a little bit more accessible, in my personal opinion. And I just really appreciate that. It makes it that much easier to latch onto this stuff and really get your emotional hooks, into it. So it's something that I really appreciate.
One last little talking
I
about the little
I
levity
love this
moments.
one. I love this one.
So I don't know much about this artist Barry Kitson, but this is kind of an introductory. I really like some of his work in these issues, and I like how he draws the thing. And I like this scene where they're at the council. Got the Avengers and the Bendis Avengers, which is basically the Marvel universe. Um, and they're like Sue and She Hulk are having some like girl talk about um, uh, what was it like about getting basically Ben back and stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, da, da, and she's like, well, to be fair, it was kind of our fault that we ran him off, but it just wasn't the same without him. Still, he could clean up more and do some dishes, and then he kind of has this outburst, and it's just the artist sells it. That I don't know if it would be ring quite as true. And look at these three panels.
Mhm.
The first is
Hmm.
just kind of like you see Ben's face. He's just like grumbly, and then it's like you see the text matches his expression. It's like, oh, it just wasn't the same without him, and you can see his face. He's like, oh, like I feel loved. And then it's like he could do the dishes and stuff. And he's like, oh, I did the dishes last night. He's just total. But you see the people like behind him, and like he just like total outbursts. Like everyone's like, whoa, what the heck? And then he's just sitting there like pouting. Um, just everyone's looking at him. And then we get a nice little suite where Sue kisses him on the cheek, and look at his expression changes again. He's like, "Oh, I feel loved again." And then the final panel, Spidey turns around and goes, "Hey, do you guys think you could keep it down? I can't hear the part where we're about to all get killed." Because they're all about to go get killed. Captain America's giving a speech, and it's just like,
Right.
and I just thought that's like
Yep.
the perfect like Spider-Man moment. And yeah, you know what? I'm gonna criticize Hickman when his stuff doesn't work for me, but I'm also gonna give him credit when it does.
It's
I
only
also
fair. Hmm.
just to bookend that. I
Hmm.
also I love that whole scene. Like you were saying with the facial expressions is great. The extra little bit, it's not really a levity thing, but I like how Reed's like given like his strategy and science and everything, but then he hands over the reins to Captain America at the end, and Captain America's like giving the orders, like, okay, we leave in an hour. I like that. It's kind of, I don't know if he meant to do this, because I know he does. Hickman does eventually down the road. He does write Secret Wars. This felt to me, it's kind of like a callback to like the original Secret Wars, where among all the superheroes that get gathered and put on this battle world, everyone's like, "Oh, Reed's the smart one. Reed should lead us." And Reed's like, "Oh no, Captain America can lead y'all. I'm happy to like provide strategy and analysis, but no, Cap can do." So I don't know. It kind of felt like a nice little, I don't know if you'd call it an homage or a tease of what's coming with the newer Secret Wars. I kind of dug that. Kind of like booking, kind of coming in just subtly right on the end of that little levity bit. Um,
I
so yeah,
100%
I dug that.
agree. And I would add on top of that, I just applaud Hickman because I believe, in my personal opinion, Captain America represents like the greatest leadership in the Marvel
Exactly.
universe.
Hmm.
Exactly.
And like this is a nod, like Secret Wars was. I think this too, like Captain America is a leader. He's a born natural leader. And that's why I always would get annoyed in some of the modern comics where like Captain America would step aside for someone else to like lead. I'm like, no, like when Captain Marvel, for example, joined the Avengers and he's like, oh, you can lead now. No way. I don't care. That the whole reason Captain America is on the Avengers is because he brings the team together. He's a born leader. And yeah, so yeah,
Yeah,
exactly what
he's
you
called
said plus that.
He's called Captain America, not First Mate America. I mean, come on, y'all.
Well, remember, Major outranks Captain. Just saying.
Okay. Well, wait,
That
what
was
was
who's
Carol
Carol?
who's
Wasn't
Carol Danvers said
Oh,
that.
she did say that, didn't she? I just remembered. Yeah, she
Yeah.
did say that. Well, doesn't well, I guess that's why Black Panther is the current leader because King outranks Major. So maybe
The
that's
only
why.
time Captain America shouldn't be leader is when he's not on the team.
There you go.
pretty much.
Yeah, I agree with that. But
I'm
yeah,
gonna
this
I'm
is
gonna
this is
say my
just a
favorite Frank Miller line from Daredevil.
what's
He
that?
had a voice that could command a god, and does.
Oh, oh, dang. I know I rag on you for your Frank Miller fanboy stuff, but damn, that's a good
You know
line.
that scene
I feel like I should.
where
I
Daredevil,
feel
it's
like
like
I've read
Daredevil's
that somewhere.
thinking out. He's got a monologue, and he's like, he has a voice that could command a god, and then it says, and does, and it cuts to a panel where Thor's standing on the rooftop commanding a thunder shower to come down on the city. And you're just like, damn, it's
Oh
such a
wow,
powerful, it's like one of my favorite scenes in all of comic history.
that's in
Yeah,
Daredevil.
Daredevil Born Again. The
Oh, okay,
Avengers
Born
show up
Again.
at the end.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, okay, cool. Yeah, I feel like I've read that somewhere. I haven't read all of Frank Miller's Daredevil, but I feel like I've read that
Yeah, we
one.
need to do a
So
Born
yeah,
Again
that's a good
retrospective.
line. I do like just like my final 2 cents though. Just the way Hickman brought in the Inhumans and the Kree, kind of like in the third quarter, but made them so interesting. Like, and maybe it's just
Yeah.
me. Like I said, I love the cosmic stuff, but like made them interesting and made them really integral. Like Ronan the Accuser hadn't been seen the whole past run that we've done, but now it comes up and it's like, oh, he's got the supremacy, and so now it's like, oh well, dang, and oh, he just betrayed Black Bolt, and oh, he's got his wife who's an Inhuman, and she's with him, and like it's this whole interest. The way Hickman just does this, and it seems like it's a last minute play, but it intrigues me, and it actually and maybe he meant to do this. I don't know. It just gets me like I want to go back and reread some of the Inhuman stuff leading up to this, or the cosmic stuff. Like
Or do
just the
you?
way he kind of plants the. I kind of do. I kind of do. To be
It's a
honest,
risky. It's
like
risky because you could just be really you could be
immediately,
really disappointed and be like, oh, it's not. You got
I
you got
could
to be
be, but
wary of
I
that when a
know it's
great writer does something. You're like, oh, I want to read this other stuff that was before, but it wasn't done by the same writer,
yeah.
so it doesn't live up to that same
Well,
expectation.
But it can still be
I'm
good
also
though.
going in knowing that
It could be.
a lot of Cosmic Marvel was Abnett and Lanning at this
They're
around
pretty
this
good.
time, and I do like
They're pretty
Abnett and
good.
Lanning. They were pretty good. So yeah, I just appreciate just the detail and just the way he interjects and puts all these new quote unquote characters to the game.
Well, you
Um,
reminded me of
yeah, I
something
really appreciate
that I wasn't even really cognitively processing until just now. That's something in retrospect, I'm really liking about these books. He doesn't just like make Captain America, like everything I said about Captain America, it's not just Cap. He does this with every character. Every character feels important. He makes every character kind of the star of their own thing, their own journey. But like, yeah, like he made the Inhumans. I never cared about the Inhumans until I read this. Now I'm like, oh, these Inhumans are awesome. Ronan the Accuser. I was like, whatever, Ronan the Accuser. Oh, Ronan the Accuser is awesome. Like, he makes everyone. He never doesn't tear down any characters. Like, I feel like that's such a modern thing to do, where they want to like make one character look good, so they tear down everyone around him, so that character can like rise above. And it's like Hickman doesn't have to do that. He raises everybody up, and for some reason, it just works. Like everyone still manages to stand out in their own way.
Totally.
Absolutely. Well, that was Future Foundation Volume 2. We came, we saw, we discussed. Um, Thank you so much, Twin. Appreciate you again being here, making it interesting, sharing your thoughts, your perspective, your point of view. Mr. Vaughn Comics, thank you for being here so I can upgrade
Oh, there it
your
is, the final
comic media
page.
name. Oh snap. Okay. Let's go ahead and
Oh,
just give a little bit right there.
yeah. See, this is where it's like I was talking about. Like, you think it's gonna be the Inhumans versus and like the 5 armies that like Backbolt has against the Future Foundation. And then Ronan's like, oh no, I'm going to backstab Black Bolt and we're just going to go wipe them out and burn the earth. And I'm going to send this Independence Day armada. And what does he tell Crystal? I think he's like, I will break the sun and annihilate everything for you. And it's like, oh my God, he's
Yeah.
actually going to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. That was that
And look,
was that
even
was a good one.
Spider-Man's eyes, like,
Yeah, Spider-Man's eyes.
look how his eyes are like, oh, this is above my pay grade, y'all.
To escape this, he had the accusers burn over 100 worlds, just to be sure. My God. And then now he will do the same to
Yeah.
ours. Stay tuned for the next
Same
volume.
bat time, same bat channel.
That's right. Be back here next week so we can cover Future Foundation Volume 3. Ash on Comics, thank you so much for being here. Twin, you already know. Check these guys out. Check out Twin more on the Geeky Puppet channel, doing some retrospectives, covering best comics of the week to look into best comics of the week that have been read. Ash on Comics, I've seen his YouTube channel. I know he has one, and you guys should go check it out because sometimes you get Mexican food and new comics on Wednesdays. Sometimes you get reviews with some in and out. Sometimes people send him packages and he opens them up and he makes a video about them because there's comics in there that he's been wanting to read, but there's always a reason why he can't get those comics because they either don't exist or his shop for some reason, even though they're in San Diego, down where San Diego Comic Con happens, is one of the most densely populated areas for like LCSs. He can't get them, and I'm up here in NorCal in the capital of California with Gavin Newsom. Just me and Gavin just reading all the comics we want. Just like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need a mask at this restaurant, and we got all the comics up here. So I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to be a Ash Vaughn Comics, but check him out on his channel, and we will be back here soon. Twitch.tv/Skip and Tosh to see us do it live and then to hear us talk more about other comics and stuff after. Thank you for joining us on YouTube if that's where you're seeing us, and we will catch y'all next time. Later. All hope lies in comics. Dab on them. Peace.
Oh, you stole it.